Start doing what we should be doing today. Anybody, any questions? Do you need help with something before we start? No? Cool.
No, I echo what Julio just said, that async functions are hard. And when I asked Vasily on Monday, is it continuing to be like that hard, or is it gonna be a bit quieter later on? He said, no, every week's gonna be harder. There's no,
Yeah.
No stopping there.
No pain, no gain, man.
Yeah.
Right. So today we should be doing a code along, which I'm actually seeing this for the first time as you are. So we're doing code along, and we're gonna be doing Instagram. So kind of copy of Instagram. And the tasks are render list of images, be able to like it, and search by author name. And then there is a bonus if you can get to it. All right, so let's just approach as you normally would with any problem in a programming and task. So let's have a look at what we're doing. So let's open Instagram. And do not judge me for what you see in there, because I have no idea who am I following. I didn't use it for a long time. So.
You never seen Instagram?
No, I have seen Instagram, but I haven't. Nice. I haven't used it for a long time, so I don't know what are you gonna see. Oh, she's actually a really good violin player, to be honest. But anyway,
Yeah.
do you know her?
Of course, yeah, for her violin skills. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So this is something like we're gonna be doing. I think we're gonna concentrate now on the actual posts, right? So we're gonna concentrate on this part. Let's forget about the menu and stuff like that now. First, we want to render like a list of images, basically, with some kind of author in here. This menu, I'm not sure if you're gonna be adding that today. So image, like button, maybe some description, and that's pretty much it. And make sure that we have more of them on the page. Cool. So let's start with our project. I just created a folder with index, HTML, main.js, and style CSS. Guys, if you at any point, if you don't understand something, or if you want to ask something, just shout, because I'm just gonna keep going. So just stop me if you.
Same as last time. We just watch you do rather than trying to copy what you do, right?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it's called a code along, so I suppose you should be trying to write it as at the same time, but it's up to you really. If you want to, I mean, you can just watch me, or you can try to write it as well. If you want, I can.
I guess it's more efficient if we watch you and kind of think, because last time I tried to copy at the same time, and I spent more time like trying to type on my computer rather than think. So
yeah.
My preference would be to kind of not do that.
Have you used these live sessions on VS Code before?
Yes, I think we've done it 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I can share the session so you can join it if I find out.
Yeah, okay. Let's do that.
I'll share. I will just do read only for now.
Where do I need to go?
Wait, I will send you the link. Let me just.
Okay.
I haven't done this for a while. Let me just sign in with GitHub. Yep. Okay, so apparently there is a code. Okay, here you go. That I will send you. I think 1 second. Yeah. Right.
So I'm signed in and I can see Vasily.
So this is, I send you a link on the Hangout chat, but you should be able to join. Can
you maybe send it to the Slack, because I'm
Slack,
on 2 different computers.
There you go.
Thank you.
So if any of you wants to join, you can join there. Right, and we're gonna start with this then, because we have lots to do. So first thing we will start with would be to actually create this whole object. Just refresh so we get rid of this chick. No, she's gonna be there. Right, so we're gonna create this whole kind of panel so it looks like as we want it. So whenever you start new task in project, you would think, let's create a markup, let's create a styling before we actually make it functional, right? Before we actually make it load the images from somewhere and make sure that that you load a couple of them and that you can like it and stuff like that. So first, you always do the kind of, we call it dummy or static part. So let's start with that. So let's create a panel. Let's call it a panel. Or how, well, let's call it post because why not? So post, and then we will need some kind of header to the post where we have like an avatar and a name and menu probably on the right. So we can do so then we will have the image itself. Did you manage to join to the session?
Sorry, yes, I'm on. Yeah.
You are there, okay. So if someone else wants to join, you can. And then we have, what do we have in here? So we have some kind of content, let's say. So we would have diff with this session, like we did last time, when I'm just gonna try to achieve as much as I can rather than making it look really pretty or make so it works like flawlessly or whatever, just so we can actually get further, so you get different ideas of what we're doing rather than making it perfect, because otherwise we would never get there. So what do we need in here? We will have some kind of avatar and a name, so we can do let's do author, and then inside of it we would have let's do it like this. This is not really correct, but don't look at it too much. It doesn't matter how you name your classes for now. And then we can just do the name in here. So the name, let's just do like this for now. I'm not sure if you're gonna need actually another element. So now we have the kind of, and I'm gonna space it a little bit so it's a little bit easier to read. So we have the header, image, and the content. The image will probably just have an image in it. We can, for now, there are some services that you can use, for example, placeholder it. And you can just say whatever size you want it, so you can just say 400 to 400, for example. Actually, let's measure it, why not? So this one is going to be 620 to 770. 620 to 770. 620 to 770. So now if you look at here, we should have, oh, it's not serving, sorry. Yeah, so now we have the image, we have the author name in here, there will be avatar as well. Then underneath the image, we will have some kind of actions. So I would just say class post actions, and let's just create the like, right? So let's, for now, let's just make it as a button. So why did I choose a list in here? If you look at the markup, we have some actions, right? So you have this line of actions. So basically, if you can already see that I'm going kind of row by row, right? So I'm going this row, then this row, then I'm going this row, and that's how we're gonna be going. That's how you usually kind of make layout, right? And then in this row with the actions, I see a couple of icons in here. So I'm just gonna make sure that I put them in a list because that's what I like to do. So we have a couple of actions, we put them in the list, and then every element in that list will be beside each other basically. So we have the like in here.
So if you don't put them in the list, they won't be aligned?
Actually, I will show you how it looks like now. By default, the list is not going to be aligned anyway. It's going to be kind of like this. If I put more actions in there, so if I duplicate this a couple of times, this is what will you see, right? So you will see it like this. It's up to us to style it in a way that they are actually in a line and aligned.
But if there was, because right now list, it looks like it's a bulleted list. If you put them as just a normal like div or whatever.
Yeah, you could.
It would look similar to what you see on Instagram, wouldn't it?
Well, it would still be one like under each other because you need to put them. Yeah, you need to put them in a line with CSS. But yeah, you wouldn't have these bullets, but they are easily removed. It's just this is how I always did it. So these kind of actions you put in the list. But if there is any real advantage to it, I can't tell you really.
It's neater, I guess.
Yeah, it looks a little neater. It does, but maybe not. Right, so that's that. And then we will say how many likes there were. So that will be quite nice implementation as well. So we can do after actions, we can say, let's just put it in here like this for now because we don't know what the markup is going to be for that yet. And then we have comments. So you'd say if those comments, and then we would have the
interesting where you write the 34 likes, it will then be below the list.
Yeah, so the list is this row, basically this row of icons, and the 37 likes is below that, right?
Yeah, but the item you added in is the container of those likes, isn't it?
This one.
Well, but 34 likes is the post content, right? Is this one? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What is that? Sorry.
I was just wondering where does it actually sit? In which? It sits in post content.
It's basically the sibling of post actions. Right. So again, like I'm kind of going through the lines, right? So this is the first line, and then the next line will be this, and the next line will be that.
Okay, no. So I thought you need to actually create a div where you would put the 37
lines. Actually, it's confusing, isn't it? So I will create div because we don't know what the markup for this is going to be yet, but it might be just as simple as just a p, paragraph.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, just put it without. I probably should have put a thing in there. Right. So we have comments, and then we have let's say info or meta. Let's call it meta. So post meta. Right. So far there will be something like it. It's fine, and then we have the new comment stuff. So we will finish for now. We will finish before this add comment because we don't have the functionality in the requirements anyway. But if we have time, we can add it. We can add something like that in there. But for now, we're just gonna finish the dialog in here. So that's that. So now we can start styling. We pretty much have the markup down, right? So it kind of starting to look like the whatever we see in here. If you look at the page, we have the name, we have the image, we have some kind of actions and something in here. Oh, the comments don't have any. Right, just so it's visible in here.
And the section with each picture would be infinite, right? Because you're going to go refresh and then you just keep going rolling down. So you're going to have to create, every time you have to create a new image and a new div and a new, is that what you're going to do? Or?
Yeah, so this basically what we're doing is now is we creating the one post, right? So this will be the markup for one post. So one of these. And then once we are happy with the styling, then we will take that and we will multiply it by, you know, however many pictures we want there. And obviously we will want to use some kind of service, so we don't know how many pictures we will have there. So we will use JavaScript to actually, you know, render as many as we need, as many as we receive from the server. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So let's continue. So let's start styling it. So let's create post. Let me actually. Are you when you're doing your projects, are you using CSS or SCSS?
So far, CSS.
Yeah.
Just CSS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just keep using CSS. Right. So we have post. So that's this element, right? And that's the pretty much the top wrapper for the whole thing. So what do we have on the global kind of thing is this border. We have some kind of radius in here as well on the border. That's pretty much it. So we can say border, and let's just give it gray for now, and border radius, I don't know, 5 pixels. It doesn't have to be pixel perfect. So now we have, see, we have this kind of wrapper around the whole thing. Now let's just change the content a little bit so it's a bit easier to deal with. So we can wrap the whole thing in another div. And you can just say, alright, actually let's go to section. And we can just say that's the post list. Yeah, let's just leave it like that. Doesn't and then the post list, we will say it's going to be, or actually let's just do something like this. So it's a little bit easier to differentiate. Yeah, and let's just say that this will have width of how much do we say the image is? Oh.
So a quick practical question: How do you do the control tab from CSS to HTML?
I'm actually just clicking on the files.
Oh, you're just clicking. Okay,
yeah.
so clicking very quickly. Okay, because I tend to find it's taking a lot of time to click from one to the other.
But there should be, if you press Control Tab, then you can do that.
Control Tab.
Yeah, not Command, Control Tab.
Oh, cool. All right, yeah.
Yeah, so the content post list will be with this, and it will be margin. So what we're doing now is we're saying that the content for the actual like list of posts will be this width, so it will be this big, and it will be, we will position it to the middle. So let's give it a little bit of stuff on the top, and a little bit of margin from the top, and auto from the sides. So that should center it basically. Right. So now we're kind of getting there with this, right? So we have the gray border, and now let's do the header. So the post header, we know that we need some kind of space around it, right? You see the space around the everything that's inside of it, basically the content of the header. So we will apply some of that. There is a little bit more space from the sides and from the top. I'm not gonna do it pixel perfect. I'm not gonna be inspecting everything because we will be here forever. But let's just do something from just by the eye. So the
How do
padding.
you choose between padding or margin?
Did you do padding and margin before?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of use them in our projects. I mean, I was using either padding or margin, but not really making a difference between the two.
So the main difference between padding and margin is that one is within the element, and the other one is kind of pushing the other elements away. So it's kind of outside of the element if you simplify it.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So
and
if
padding is within the element, then yeah, okay.
Yeah. So if you imagine, if you see this header, so this space that is inside of it, that's padding. If you want to push this image, let's say, down, so there is space between the header and the image, that would be margin.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Right. So now we should have some. Yeah. So we have some padding on our header. I don't know if there is any. There might be some slight border there. Yeah, I think there is a little border in here, so we can do that as well. So the header on the bottom, light gray. So you see we have this, well, you can't see the border now, but there is the border basically. Now so we have that. Now the avatar itself. So we style the header somehow. Now we have the author. The author is basically a wrapper for this element in here, right? So for this widget, let's say, and inside of it we have two things. We have one is the image, and the other one is the name of the author. Let's make it a link as well. Right, so the avatar, let's put another dummy image in there. So let's hold it. Let's say 60 to 60. And that should give us some kind of image in there and the author name. Okay, cool. So now, does this make sense so far? What we're doing in here?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Just having the margin auto as a number 2 kind of makes it center automatically, is that right?
Yeah, so auto will basically take the width of the element, and it will figure out how much there is space from each side that it should be basically. So it will apply from one side. If you can also do so this is top. If you do like 60 pixels from the right and then auto from the other side, it should position it. We should calculate how much it is from the other side basically. So yeah, so that's just kind of like a helper from CSS, so you don't have to know the exact number. You could position it with flex as well and stuff like that, but this is very easy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So now let's do the post author. Or is it just avatar? Sorry. Author avatar. Yeah, this is not the best name of the class, but sure. So the avatar is the image. The image is inside of a div, so we can just say this will be, let's say, width. How big is it? It's quite small. Okay. Yeah, let's say 36 to 36, so 36 pixels, height 36 pixels, and so what we want from the image is to be round, right? So we need to give it a border radius, so we will say 100%, and yeah, let's see how it looks like. So now we have, that's interesting. So now we have the post author is here, see? Now we need to make sure the image is actually inside of it, right? So we say post author avatar image, and we just set it to
maybe I need this part, but where did you set up the overall width of the content?
the overall width of the content. You mean the width, this one?
Yes.
That's done in here. So the width is 620 pixels basically right now. You could make it percentage as well if you want to have it responsive. It's up to you.
So you have a div that is using that class?
Yes.
Is it like the main wrapper?
Yeah, that's the main wrapper, yes.
Okay. And when you say percentage, how would that work? Like if you put 100%, it would just take the whole width of the whole page.
It would take the width of the parent, yes. So if I put 100% in here right now, it would be the whole page, right? If I put 65, then it would be this. If I wrap it in another div, actually let's put the same class in there.
Yeah, Thomas, in that example, now that you put the 65,
yeah,
if you go back to the browser,
yeah,
what happens with the space to the right? Because in my previous yes answer, I was seeing the whole thing as a whole. So I'm referring to the whole width.
do you mean this space, this empty space?
Yes.
This empty space we didn't get to yet. We're doing the header now. We're gonna do that later. We are just styling the header now. We didn't style this yet. So this will stretch as much as we want it to, as much as we say in the wrapper, and eventually this image will stretch with it probably. But for now we didn't code that yet, so it doesn't do it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, just to show you, so we have now two wrappers. Let me just do like an indentation in here. So we have two wrappers and they have the same class. So basically what we're saying is we want one to be 65% width of the parent, which is the overall window, and then the other one will be also 65%, but it will be 65% of the parent, which is already 65% of the window, right? So if I refresh it now, you will see that this one is now smaller. If I put a border, this is debugging. We talked about this before. Just use whatever you can to debug stuff. So if you do if you select the first one and you do border 1 pixel solid red, then actually is it gonna work? Oh.
We lost you for a second.
Yeah, I pressed refresh and I was focused on this window, so it refreshed my Google Hangout. Right. So now you can see that we have this red border is the first wrapper, which is 65% width of the whole page, and then we have another red border around this one, which is 65% width of the previous one. So it's always the width is always calculated from the parent. In the first one,
yeah,
the parent is window. In the second one, the parent is the previous div. Yeah. So now let me just bug this up. Right. So what do we do next? Let me just put this back as well. Yeah. So now we have the image. We will also have to give it a border radius probably. So we set the image to be 100% of the parent and height 100% of the parent. And now we're setting the border radius so it's actually round. So now we have the round avatar in there. Now I am choosing this for convenience, and we can play with the images later. But if you look at, so let's find different. So something like that. Place kitten, is that right? Yeah, placekitten.com. Okay. So if we use that one, so now you should see, oh, not this one. So now you will see cuts instead of it's cute. You will see cuts instead of just gray boxes, right? So if you look at this avatar, let me just make it bigger so you see what I'm actually talking about. So if I do this really much bigger, right? So this is our image now. If I used width and height on the image for like 100%. So basically that means it will take this width and height. If I change this ratio to something else than the original image is, so if I say that the width, if I change this ratio of the image, so the image is not actually square. So if I say that one side is 100 and the other one is 60, because we used 100% and 100%, you see it's kind of skewed. Let me just make it even bigger for bigger effect. Let's just do this like 80 or something, a little bit more. Right. Yeah, you see, so it's not really the best image. It doesn't refresh the image. So it's not, it doesn't keep the ratio the way that I wrote it in here. There are other ways to position image with transform and stuff, or translate. So we can do that later, but for now, just to keep it convenient, we're gonna assume that these images are square, which for avatars, for example, they would be, because when you handle avatars in your application, when user uploads the image, what you would normally do is that you would crop the image into square. So then later and save it. And so later in the front end, you wouldn't have to deal with the kind of like stretching images and stuff like that. You would just basically use a square image. So that's what a lot of applications do, and you can also see it if you if you upload, for example, I think it's on LinkedIn. If you upload image on LinkedIn, when you upload it, they will actually give you like the square and say like select which part of the image do you want to show. That's because they don't want to process it on the front end, so they just literally crop it into a square. Right. So now we have this. We just need to put the author name beside the image. So we could just use a flex for this. So author. So this should put them one beside each other, and then you just need to. So obviously we need some space between the image and between the name of class. Between the name. So this one has another subtitle kind of in here, but let's just continue with the one that we had there before. This one. So we need some kind of space. So let's say that our avatar will have a margin on the right hand side for 20 pixels, for example. So that should push the author a bit too far. Yeah, so something like that. And Yeah, and that's it. So now the actual name, which we don't have any, we have author, and we have the link. Yeah, I'm just gonna target it like that because why not? And now let me just see if I can do this, if I can get this right on the first try. I think I told you this before, I generally don't write too much CSS, so these things I always need to refresh. I'm very much a JavaScript guy. Let's come back to this anyway. We have them beside each other. We will centrate later. I just need to remember what it is. It's definitely, is it align self? Yeah, there you go. So it does.
If you do a margin, okay.
Yeah, you can also do. I mean, it's not unheard of that you would just do like a margin from top. You could do that, but you know, we can. There are tools to do it better. Definitely, even this one is not. I feel like it's not 100% in the center. I'm not sure now, but anyway, let's just do that. So align self.
Can you please show me where you put that image again?
Where I put that image. Here. So we have the author and we have the author avatar, and inside of it we have the image. If you want, you can yeah.
I'm still concerned about the width part because that's giving me hard times most of the time.
Yeah.
How you get it to fit exactly from one side to the other one? Is it because the image size is the same one as the container?
Well, it doesn't have to be same, but you need to set. So you see in the image, we say that the width and height, we set it to 100%. So we basically, the image might be different size. So in our case, the avatar is 36 pixels, the image is 60 pixels. But what I'm doing is I'm saying this div, this avatar, will have that size, and then the image, we're just saying do a 100%, 100%. So you're basically saying like stretch to 100% width and 100% height, so you fill the element for that we want to display. So this one.
And why didn't you use a figure element in HTML and just the image element?
Sorry, what do you mean?
If we go back to the image, yeah, in there.
Yeah.
I mean, most commonly people will do what you did, just use the image element. But during the course, we've been using the figure and then putting the image within the figure element.
Yeah, I mean, you can use figure. Look, there are different approaches, right? So you can use the figure definitely, and you know what I just showed a minute ago, like this works very well because we have the same ratio, so they are basically 1-to-1, right? These images. If you change the ratio, then you need to do something else to position it properly. I'm just trying to. I want to get the whole design in, so we can actually see, like, you know, that we do the whole thing. Then we can make it work, so we load the images and it repeats the image. I mean, it repeats the post and stuff. And then if we have time, yeah.
Let's keep going. Okay.
Yeah. So if we have time, we can then play more about, you know, with the images and stuff like that, because yeah, I mean, it really depends on the requirements from the site, because for example, these images, the avatars, you can be fairly certain that they're going to be the right size. These bigger images, they are the opposite, right? Like anybody can upload any kind of size of image. Well, not to Instagram actually, but like to other projects. Yeah, you can. So it's you know, it depends on the project as well. What your requirements are. If that makes any sense. But I just want to kind of power through the whole layout, so we actually have that down, and then we can, you know, we can revisit different elements of it and try to make it a little bit nicer. If that makes sense. Yeah. Are you happy with that? Ricardo.
Yes.
I'm going to, in here, I'm going to reset all the font sizes just for our own kind of convenience. So I will just say that the, actually, you know what, let's just do the body, that's going to be easier. So the body will be 12 pixels, let's say. Right, so now this is, let's do more than 14. Right, so now this is our author name. It doesn't have any underline, so we can say text decoration none, and it's a little bit older as well, so font weight bold. And that should give us the kind of like author name as we have it in here. Obviously they have much better font and stuff like that, so it looks better, but we can always revisit that. We can change colors, we can play with it as much as we want to, really. Right, so that's, let me just see if we have, no, okay, so this border is actually part of the image. It's not the avatar itself, it's somehow part of the image, I guess. So now we have the avatar and the image. So we have basically, let's say we have the header done. For now, let's forget about the menu because that's not gonna work anyway. So we can add it later. So let's just continue with it. Now we have the image in here. Again, we will stretch it to 100 just to make sure that we actually cover, because right now it's covering part of the element. So in here, that's not it. So where am I? So in here we have post image, and this post image, we don't have any styles for it yet. We can say post image. We will say that the width is 620, or actually width will be 100% because we already have the wrapper, so it will be 100%, and the height will be, I think it was 770. Yeah. And then in the post image, we will take the image tag and we will say that the width and height will be 100%. So that will just make sure that the image doesn't overflow from the element as it did just then. Right? So this is our image. This is just image, so we don't really have to do much with it now. So let's move on down to the actual actions. So in the actions, let's remove all these because we don't really need them. Just need the like for now. We have the actions. Do we have any? Right. So you can see again that on the content we have some kind of padding, right? Like it has some space around it. So we will apply that padding. It will be the same like on this one because we want it to be consistent. So if you look at the header, we have this padding set. So we will set the same padding. And now if you would be using SCSS, you would have this as a variable probably just to make sure that you don't have to change it in different places once you actually do it. But we're not using that now, so that's fine. So we do post, content, padding, and yep. So that gives us the padding around the whole element in here. Now let's have a look at the, what is it? It's actions, right? So in actions we have a list, and inside of the list we have different items. So we will say actions full. This is the list. I just want to say normally, I mean in a bigger project you should be discouraged to target the elements by tag names, because if you change the tag, if by some decision you decide we actually don't need list in here, we will change it to div, then you need to change your styles as well. If you target it through class, then it doesn't matter if you change the tag, right? But again, for the simplicity of this, this will be easier to read and faster for us to do. So let's just do that. We just need to reset some styles on the margin. So on the list. So we'll just say this, and list style will be none. Right, so that should give us the button aligned. So now the button is in the same line basically. So we removed all the styling from the list, and now we have just the button. Let's just put 2 in there, just so we actually see that they will be beside each other. So what is the other one? It's like, and I assume this is comment. So let's do that. So now they're gonna be, you will see 2 buttons under each other, and we need to make sure they are beside. So again, we can just apply flex to this, and they should be beside each other. Yeah, so you have 2 actions now. They do have some kind of space between them, and there are different ways to apply that. Again, you could apply padding around each of them. You could apply margin around each of them. If we inspect this very quickly, you can see what they actually did, right? And again, every project has different kind of requirement. So for example, in here you see this button. That's the button for the like, and it has a padding on it. Right, so you can see in here. Oh, actually, you can't probably see that in here. It's too small. Let me just go up, up, up. So you have button, and the button will have padding of 8 pixels on it. So that's what creates the space between them. If I remove it, they will get closer together. Right. So that's just one of the things that that they do basically. So yeah, I mean, it depends on how you want to do it. You could do also space between and other things, but yeah, padding they did. If you use padding, that means it's part of the element. So that basically means that this button, if you look at my mouse, I don't know if you can see it because it's too small. If you look at my mouse, if I go slightly out of the heart, it still is a little pointy hand. So that means that even if you, and this is made for user experience, right? So even if I tap in here, I will still tap the like button. So they're basically extending the kind of action area of the button just by styling. They're saying, this is the icon, that's the representation of the button, but the actual button, the actual action area around it is much bigger. So that basically is made for like big fingers and stuff. By default, the kind of advice is that no action element should be less than 40 by 40 pixels, right? Like if you need to stop on something, it shouldn't be less than 40 by 40 because otherwise it's just too small of a target to tap with your finger. That's the kind of like a generic rule. So I guess that's what they're doing in here, just making sure that you can actually tap outside of it as well. So yeah, so we can do that as well. Why not? That's what they do. So let's do this, and let's say that every button inside there will have padding. I think they did 8 pixels. So that should give us basically the same thing like they did. So you see, we don't actually have any space between the buttons. See what they did there, right? So you don't have actually any space between the buttons. The space is within the buttons because it's a padding. And that means that if I click on the empty space where my text is not there, you will still trigger the action. So that's why they did that. So no space between the actual buttons, but space within the buttons to increase the target area. Let's just do a, well, actually let's leave the buttons like this for now because it will be easier to see what we're doing there. Let's do the cursor as well. Why not? So we will change the cursor to pointer, which is the little hand. So now when you point at it, we have that little hand as well, because by default buttons don't have the pointer. Right, so that's our actions. We will worry about icons and stuff later. So that's our actions. Actually, no, let's leave it like this. Yeah, so that's our actions. Now let's do the 7 likes. So that's That's there. I don't know why is it a link. I don't know what it does on Instagram, so I'm gonna click it. Right, so it brings up a dialogue with whoever liked this. So we can make it a link as well. Why not? It looks like a very similar style to this one. Oh, by the way, this one has a underline on hover, so we should add that as well because we don't have that. So if you see, ours doesn't do anything. So let's do. Where's my here? So of my outer, we can say that on hover, the decoration is underlined. So that will give us the underline decoration on the as you hover over the outer. And now for the 34 likes, let's make it a, so let's do a div then, and let's make it a link. Put this in there. Yeah, and that's 34 likes, and it will have the same style like this, but no hover action, I think. Yeah, no hover action. This might be actually a button. Yeah, it is a button. I don't know if you have talked about differences between buttons and links. Have you talked about that?
I don't think so.
So buttons and links are basically interactive elements, right? So link, when you click it by default, it will navigate you somewhere. Button, when you click it by default, doesn't do anything. If you have a type, you see that the button has a type. If you have a type button which is submit and it's within a form, then by default it will submit that form. That's the only kind of default behavior. Now, why would you use button or link in different cases? The general kind of like a semantically what is correct is if you have anything that will navigate you somewhere, you should be using link. If you have anything that triggers an action that the user just like clicks and something happens within the page, it should be a button. So if it's not navigation, it should be a button. If it's a navigation, it should be a link. People definitely do not follow this very well. So for example, in here, if I click on this, I'm pretty sure it will take me somewhere. You see, like it will navigate me to this user's page. If I go back and I click on the 12 likes, if I click on the 12 likes, it will just open a dialog, right? So it didn't actually navigate me anywhere. It just did something on the page, and that's why. So all these will be buttons, all these will be links, for example. That's the kind of main difference between button and link. It's really just about the semantics of it and stuff. So, right, so we can already see in here that every link has the same styling. So we can actually take our link styles. Oh, this is not the correct thing. Take our link styles in here, and we can generalize them up in here because we want all the links to look the same, let's say. So I just took it out of the alter and I just put it on like a global scope, so this will now target all the links. Same for the hover. Yeah. And we can get rid of this, and this should actually be a button. Okay, so now we have the same markup as the Instagram has. Basically, we have a button in here, and that will take you to a dialog, let's say. Let's style it now. So what would you normally do is, if it looks like a link, you would basically create a class that would be something like button link, for example. So you would say, this is my button, and the class would be button, and the variation would be link. Okay? So if I go back here, because this is more kind of generic, so I put it at the top of the file. I say link, then the style would be, wouldn't have any border, It wouldn't have any background. It would have cursor pointer. And what else do we need to change on the button? Right, so this is it. That's the pointer. It doesn't have any padding. And I think that's it. We need to change the font. It should look the same as.
Any reason why you put 2 dash in button link?
Yes, that's a good question. Have you did anyone tell you about BEM? It's called BM, BEM. No. So basically, it's one kind of pattern to name your classes. It's absolutely optional. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's just one thing to kind of follow, and it's been adopted quite well. So what it means is you will have your base class, which is your base class, and then if you put underscore underscore and another name in there, that means basically there is an element that is following the previous one. If you put dash dash, then that's kind of altering your element. So it's the same element, it's not a new element, but it's kind of changing the look and feel of that element. So you could have, for example, normally you would have button dash dash secondary and button dash dash default, for example, or something like that. So you have these kind of classes, and these dash dash something is just what changes the look and feel of the element, but it's not actually anything within the element, or it's not like a new thing to target. For example, if you have an icon, so if I would have a button and then inside of it I would have an icon, let's say, I mean I is not an icon, but that's what we normally use. So then I would say to target that icon, I would do button underscore underscore icon. Right? So I'm saying this icon is something within the button, so it's the next level after the button. So that's how you do it. If you want to read more about it, let me just send you the link. You can just Google BEM. I will send you a link as well. But it's very easy to understand, and it's quite quick read, so you can read about it more. It is just a practice to follow. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. If you go to BEM and you go to naming, then you will see what I was just doing there. So if it's an element, you do block underscore underscore element. They couldn't make it smaller really. Block underscore underscore element. If it's a modifier, then it's dash dash the modifier. Yeah. But again, not necessary to use this. I'm just used to be using that. Right. So now this is how it looks like. Let me just go back to here and remove that icon. Yep. So now this is our button. Oh, also you saw that blue border around it. That's called outline. That's when you actually make the button. When you focus on a button, that's what happens. If I press tab and I unfocus from it, it will remove it. So I just have to do outline. So now if I click on it, you see no blue border. So now we have this that looks like a link. It's clickable, but it's actually a button because it's just a it is just an action on a page. Right. So we have that. Now moving on to the comments. We're not gonna code the whole comment section. But basically what it is you will have a list of, let's do like a list of lines. This one says views instead of likes. That's interesting. List of lines with the names and some kind of text behind it. Let's just do that. Let's not get too technical with this. So we can say this is our list, and within each will be a ref, which anchor, which will navigate to the outer, so outer one, and then it will be a text, which we can just put in a span for now. So let's take any kind of random text. I'll just put it in here. We can duplicate this by a couple of them. Right. So we have, oh, sorry, this was not right. I should be using Emmet for this, but I'm not that used to Emmet yet, so just writing it out. Right, so now, oh, that's not the one here. So now we have our list of comments, and we just need to unstyle this list, right? So we need to say post comments. So let's go to comments in here. Comments. And we say that the list inside of the comments will have no styling. Again, you would probably create a new class. Actually, we can do that. Why not? I'm just trying to keep it as flat as possible. This is the post comments. No. Post comments. So I'm just trying to keep it as flat as possible because we have just one class on each. What you normally would do with lists, if you want to have unstyled list, you would just add another class, which would be list unstyled, for example. And then you would extract this whole thing, and you would create a new class, which would be list unstyled. And you wouldn't then have to have it in here. And you wouldn't have to have it in here. Yeah. Here's my list unstyled. Right, so now we have this list the same as the, no styling, basically, like on these ones. And it's similar to what is on Instagram, as close as we will get now anyway. You will see there is like a list of usernames and some kind of message. So we have a list of username and some kind of message. Everything is kind of sandwiched right now. We will deal with that later. So now the last one is the metadata, as I call it. So it just says how long ago has this been done, has this been posted. So let's style it as well. It's not linked, it's just a free text. So we go back to our code. Let's have a look at where we have it. Post meta, sure, why not? Post meta, and so the two things that you can see from here. One is it's gray. Oh, actually, it is a link. It is a link. It's not a button. Okay, so it's a link. So two things that you can see from here is it's gray, right? It's different color than these links, and it's all capital letters. This is something that you can achieve with CSS as well. So look at my text in here. It says 2 hours ago, and it's all lowercase letters. If I now style it, I can say that the style will be some kind of light gray, and text text, what is it called? Text transform will be uppercase. Right, so as you can see in here, no uppercase letters. If you look at the page, post meta. You see that now everything is uppercase. I don't know if you can see this. Let's just put it as a gray. Yeah. So you see now everything is uppercase. It should be probably smaller, so we can make it smaller as well. And then again, like I'm using pixels in here. Normally, what you could do is you could use percentages or EMs or whatever the project requires. So, for example, I'm using 12 pixels. I could also say 0.9 EM, which basically means our default font is 14 pixels. So take 0.9 of these units of that default font, and that would give you some kind of font size. So yeah, so now we are pretty close to what it should be. We just need to, potentially we would have to put icons in here. I don't want to really waste time on this now because we have loads of stuff to do, so I will leave them as they are now in there, because they are just literally just images that we put in there. And we just need to space it a little bit, which we could do two different ways. One way would be to create a list, so everything in the content would be a list, right? Actually, three ways, well, multiple different ways. So everything in the content would be a list. So if I collapse now everything inside of the content of the post, you will see that we have the post actions. We have this how many likes are there. So let's just call it somehow so we know. So post data, let's say. We have post data, post comments, and post meta. Now, to space them, we could either use a list. We could put them as a list items and then space each list from each other. Or we could apply some kind of spacing to each of these, right? So we could say like post actions is gonna be is gonna push everything down a little bit, and so on and so on and so on. Or we could even use something like Flex for it. It really there are so many different applications that you can do to actually create these spaces between. For the ease of it, not right now, I'm just gonna apply. I'm just going to apply. Yeah, I'm just gonna apply each some kind of. Or let's just leave it list, because it's going to be a little bit neater. So we will create list. It will be again unstyled list. And we will have item, and inside the item there will be actions. And again another item, and inside of it will be post data. And now, because we created this, you can see that we don't actually, we could potentially remove the diffs that have the classes on them, because we could apply the classes to the list items directly. But generally speaking, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because then it kind of gives you two levels of possible styling that you can do, and you will probably need it at some point. There will be some people who will tell you, I don't like extra markup, so why don't we just take this class and apply it to this item, and so on and so on, rather than having the in diffs. It really is up to you. I would prefer it like this. So now in the post content, we could say let's just give this some kind of class. So we would say post content main. I would say that each of the items will have some kind of margin around it, which will be 10 pixels. So in that case, we will have some kind of spacing around them, you can see. And we can also apply it to just the one that is inside of the main, because you can see that we have spacing now between the comments as well, which we don't want to. Right, so now everything is kind of nicely spaced, basically. Is everybody still with me, or did I lose you yet?
Yeah.
No, and
Yeah.
I'm amazed by how quickly you do that.
Yeah, I mean, you will learn, don't worry. You will do it even quicker. I haven't been doing this for a long time. Any questions so far before because we are about to get to the JavaScript, so we actually do some JavaScript as well.
No.
No? Okay. Right, so let's continue with this then. So now we have kind of one element, right? I'm pretty happy with this because I know that it's not going to be some major changes. If you look at this, you know, there will be some changes with the icon. Eventually, there will be some changes with the icons and so on. But you know, I'm pretty happy with it now. As a dev, I'm pretty happy with it now. So now I can actually start integrating it with the with the images that we want to load in there. So now in the requirements, we say that we should use the Unsplash. Okay, so let's have a look at it. So Unsplash, for whoever doesn't know, if I create my new tab, you will see I have these really beautiful images in here. They are coming from Unsplash. It's kind of like a free resource for images. So people who take really nice pictures upload them for free in there. Unsplash. Right, so now what can we do with the Unsplash? Get a random photo, that sounds good. The number of photos to return, yeah. So we can, so you see reading documentation. So I go to the Unsplash, go to the documentation, and from there I just looked at this page and I thought, if I go to documentation, I'm just thinking what could be, for now, what could be interesting for me, so I can see random photos and new photos. Random photos probably will be better for us because we will have the images changing, which is quite nice. So if I click on that, it will show you we're going to be making GET request. I don't know if you remember from last time, GET request to this endpoint. So if you make a GET request to this endpoint, we should get some kind of parameters, okay? So, some kind of data. So you can get some statistics as well. You can get all sorts of stuff in this. So we can actually test this, right? So we can just say, okay, this is a GET request, so we can do it in the browser. Whenever you see a GET request, that's basically what browser is doing. So let's just, we will have to, we will probably have to, yeah, register in here. So we'll create a developer account. Lovely. Right. New application. The API is to be used for non-automated, high-quality and authentic experiences. You cannot replicate the core experience. Your access key security must be do not abuse the API. Okay, so that's the terms and condition. Application name, I will say, what are we doing now? I called it, what did I call it? InstaSnap. InstaSnap. Create application. No. Right. So here are my access keys. So now they gave me basically the authentication for that API. So let me just save it somewhere so we have it. There we go. So that's the access key. And secret key. Okay. So now let's go back to the documentation. We should be able to now connect to the API. So to the libraries and guidelines, hot linking. So the API is here. So if you now put this in the browser, oh, let's see if they go something without the registration. Oh no, you have to register first. Okay. So there are applications that you can use if you need authentication. I'm using Postman, for example. So in Postman, it's an application that will help you to kind of debug or interact with API. Let me just show you in here. Just close this. Right, so this is Postman. This is like a basically helper app where you can make requests as you would do in your application. So you can debug and see if you actually know what you're getting. So we have API Unsplash, and so this should be fine. And the authorization we need to put in the header. So this will be our authorization header. So client ID, authorization client ID. So if you look at the Postman headers, authorization, client ID, and the access key is here. So that's our authorization header, or you can pass it as a part of your URL. So you could have done it actually in the browser. So if we do this, let's see if it works. And our access key is this. Yeah, so you can see we're already getting some kind of data from Unsplash. So let me just do this in here. Actually, I should be edit/photos. There you go. Yeah. So you see that now we are registered with Unsplash, and we can actually get some kind of data from them, and it will give you, all sorts of links to images. Will give you the actual URL of the image, and all sorts of other data. So you would have to, as a consumer of this API, you would have to decide what is important to you and so on. There's some description as well that we could probably use. I don't know if there is any outer. There's URLs, links, categories, user. Yeah, user. So this will be the outer basically. Yeah, cool. So we now know how to get the images. We know that we need to use this API. So let's go to our main JavaScript file. So now we are moving away from styles. I will close the styles for now. We're not going to touch them for now. And we're going to start using the JavaScript. So first thing we want to do is we want to create the function that will actually connect and download the photos from Unsplash. So we would say function get photos. Okay, so this will be our function that will get all the photos from Unsplash. Let's put a count as a parameter in there because we want to say how many we want to get. This is just, doesn't really matter, but we can. Can we? Let me just check. Or maybe not in this one, this might be just in the random one. So the random is photos/random. So if I do photos/random, yeah. So with photos/random, you can actually get different amount of images. So let's do that. Go back to our JavaScript, so get photos, count. Now, how do we get photos? Who remembers? I mean, how do we make requests to the server?
We apply a get request. So fetch.
Fetch, yeah. So fetch, and we will be fetching from the URL that we have in here. So ipin/photos/random. Let's put the client ID into the actual header so we don't have it as part of the URL. And we would say the count will be our variable, whatever we put in there. Yeah. So this is our fetch. Now the options of fetch will be headers, authorization, client ID, I think it was, client ID, and then the actual header, the actual key, client ID and the key. So that's our authorization. So now we're doing the fetch, right? Would you prefer me to do it with async await or with promises? What would be more useful for you?
Let's do promise.
Promise, yeah, cool. So here we have promise. So after that we will do then and response, and let's just log it out, right? So let's do this console log. Actually, let's do response console log response. Right, and we will execute it straight away just to debug it in the browser. So now we have that. Let's open our application console. Let me just put this on the side. That will be probably much better for this time. So I can just do that so we see nicely. And you see that we are getting this response. So we are getting response and we got 400, which basically means that it's invalid request. And that will be because of the count is undefined. So if we put count 3 in there, let's see, and you see the status is 200. So whenever you see 200, that means it has been successful. You cannot see the body because we still need to parse it, but at least you can see that we are getting the response. If you look at the network tab, you will be able to see it in there, your request. And you yeah, because we didn't parse it, you're not going to be able to see the response. But that's just parsing, so we need to do that. So cool. So we are connected basically. We are getting the data that we need. So now let me just do console log in here. Actually, let's just leave it for now. So we have response. We have response from the photos, so that's good. But this is basically the whole response object, right? So what we need to do now is we need to say give us the JSON because it's in JSON format, and this is promise as well. So now what we need to do is we need to do another then. Let me say data, console log data, and also we can say catch error console error. Okay. So what this does is it will fetch something from this URL, from this API. It will try to parse it as a JSON. If it does parse it as a JSON successfully, it will pass it into the second then, and then we just log it out into our console for now. And if it doesn't, if it's not successful, then it will just return error. Now there is something important that I want to show you, but let me just show you that this actually works. So now you can see we have actually 3 pictures in our console that we can now work with, and we can actually fill this markup. Now, one important thing to know about fetch is. If I change this count to, actually if I just remove the number from here, you saw that before it failed, right? So the actual request failed, yeah? So we got 400. And we got the errors from here. But if you look at, let me just do console log, so data, an error. What do you, in this case, if it's 400, so we will get 400 from the API, what do you think we will see in the console? Who can tell me that?
I think we will still see data.
Sorry?
Because even if it's...
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
No, because even if it's showing an error message, it's still showing a message. Right?
So the important thing to know about, you are very close. The important thing to know about fetch is, you can see that in here I got data and then the error from the API, right? So the count is invalid. If you look at where the data is coming from, it's coming from the successful flow in our application. What you need to know is there are two different errors that can happen with fetch. One is that the fetch actually completely fails, so it doesn't get to the server, right? So if you make a request from your client to the server using fetch, if the request cannot reach the server, if the connection doesn't happen, then you would get here, you would get to the catch. Okay? If the connection actually happens and the server will respond to you, and it will respond to you with error, that is not considered as a fetch error. So in that case, the fetch or the browser thinks that everything was successful, even though you are getting error from the server. So it's important to make the difference between two errors. One is from the browser that is telling you I cannot connect to the server, and the other one is from the actual server when you actually connect to it, and it tells you something went wrong on their side. But in the second scenario where the server tells you that something went wrong, browser doesn't really care about it. From the point of view of browser, the request has been successful, even though server is telling you that there is something wrong. So if you want to handle errors from the server to catch them in the same catch like you would do it with the web API, you would have to do it in here, right? So in here in the response, once you get your response back, what you would have to do is you would have to check if the response status is more than 200 or and response status is less than 299, let's say. That doesn't matter right now. So in here you can say that this is actually success. So you would say return response JSON, right? So this is my the request to server was successful and server returned success as well. If you get to else, where you have different status code from the server, you would have request to server has been successful, was successful, and server returned error. Okay, but for the browser it looks the same. So in this case, you could still do the response JSON, because the server is giving you a JSON back. The server is giving you data back, but it's error data. It's not the data that you want. So instead of returning it as a good thing, you would probably do something like, promise reject response JSON or whatever, something like that. So in that case, I'm not actually sure if this is gonna work now, but it's uncaught because this is so you would have to chain it in different way basically. But in this case, you would have to handle the error yourself. So that's the kind of, let's say, bad thing about just raw fetch, is you need to handle the errors from the server yourself. The fetch is not going to do it for you. For fetch, it's important only if they can connect to the server. If they can't connect to the server, they will give you error. Anything else for the browser is a success. So we can actually test that by if I malform this API somehow. Actually, let's just do this. If I do this, so the server is not going to be able to connect to it, then now we should actually see the error. He says, but oh, it's still pending. Yeah, so this will eventually, so this is trying to connect now. You can see it's still pending. It's trying to connect to the server, but because this URL doesn't exist, after a while it will time out and it will give you error that this doesn't exist and I can connect to the server. So that's important for browser if it can connect or not. Does it make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's move on. So we have the data now, right? We have those 3 pictures that we want to use. So now what we can do is we can just return this. Actually, we don't really have to do this. We can just do that. So now get photos. If we do .then, because this is returning a promise, then we can do .then, and we have the data. We have the photos basically. We can call it photos, doesn't matter how we call it, and we can do something with them. Okay. So now, how do we actually get the photos inside of the HTML? You might think, I mean, you might say, and rightly so, that it would be a nightmare to recreate this whole thing in JavaScript, right? Because you would have to create all these elements and, you know, put like a text to them, all of them, and classes and stuff. It would be absolute nightmare. So there are 2 ways around it. One, you can use framework or library, and it's simple as that. Like if you use React, for example, React has a way to do this, right? Like you can actually loop through sections of HTML and you can print them out as many times as you want to. The second one, if you want to do it just in JavaScript, what I found quite useful is you can clone nodes. So you can basically say, I can take this whole thing and I want to clone it. I want to create the same structure and put it on the page again. So what would you do is, and this is probably not going to be very popular with a lot of people, but what you can do is you can create one in your HTML and you can hide it. You can say this post. You can say it's the template, for example, right? So you would say this is my template post basically, and in your CSS you would say that your post template is display none, right? Something like that. So now you wouldn't actually see it on the page, but it's still there. If you look at your page, it's still there, right? So you can actually target it. You can do something with it. So now what we would do inside of our script, we would get the photos. So because we're doing it in here, we're basically getting them on load, but obviously we could do it better, but let's just leave it for now like this. So get photos on load, and then we will go through the photos and we want to put them on the page. So we get in photos, and now what we will do is we will create a loop. So in this case we will just use map. For each. I'm not sure if you have used this one before or not. And then we say photo. Right, so let's just indent this a little bit so it looks a little bit better. Let's just see if we can get it out. So photo. So now we should be getting one by one. Yep, so we're getting them one by one. So now what we can do is we can create another function. It's always better to scope things into functions, and you would say create post, and you would give it the photo, and that's pretty much it, right? And then inside of here you would do all the work that you need to do. So you would say const post element, create post element, element. Post element equals create post element, and you would pass in the photo, right? So now we basically create a new function where we will take care of all the HTML that we need to do, and then it will just return it. So inside of here, we will want to find our template. So we would say template, and we would do document query selector post template. So let's log it out just to make sure we have it.
Your syntax of console.
Console. My fingers are getting ahead of me. Sorry. Right. So you see we have the post element now. So each of the photos is taking the template. So now what we can do is we can say const new post equals template clone node. Okay. This clone node is, I want to say, fairly new API, but it's not that new anymore. But it wasn't like, several years ago this wasn't possible. So you would have to use jQuery or something. But this has been now kind of widely accepted in all the browsers, so you shouldn't be worried about using that. You will have to pass in param, if I remember correctly, because if you do a clone node, so if you look at our markup, this is what we're trying to clone. The one param that this function should accept is if you want to do a deep clone or if you want to do a shallow clone. What that means is if you do shallow clone, it will clone literally just this div, right? The one that is selected, this one. If you want to do deep clone, it will do the whole tree that belongs to the div. So we want to definitely do the deep clone, so we have the whole thing. Right? So now,
so I mean, in the projects that we've done so far, I mean, the way I've done it is actually to just copy paste the HTML like syntax into JavaScript, and then kind of whenever there's an element that I want to customize, or I would just put the param as a $sign. Then
look, you can do that.
Is another way to do it, or
it is another way to do it. With your approach is fine. It's just your approach is good because you wouldn't have to have this template. That's one thing, but the template doesn't really like. I never found an issue with this, but I would definitely try to stay away from having like a big chunks of text, like HTML text in your JavaScript. It just doesn't look good, and it's hard to maintain because like in here, if we want to change something in our markup, I just change it as a pure HTML, right? Like it has all the nice coloring and nice autocomplete and stuff. If you put it in your JavaScript, then you lose all that. It's just text. So I try to stay away from that always. But again, once you start using frameworks, you're not gonna be doing this anyway. So this is just this is just what you learn it so you understand it, but eventually you will move to something else. So we have the new post. So now we should potentially we can let's just not change anything and just return it, right? New post. Now we are returning it from here. So this is our new clone of the template. Actually, one thing that we need to do is we need to remove this template class. Otherwise, it's going to be all templates. So we need to do new post classes let's just class. I don't remember now how to do it. Let me just 1 second. So if I go here, so one class list, and if I do splice one class list index of is now function. Okay. So what is this then? So we have the class. So basically, what we want to do, is because it's DOM token. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to remove this one from the class list. There should be somewhere. Oh, there's actually a remove. Look at that. Don't even know that it was there. So if you do post template, that should just remove it. Oh. Yeah, you see, so it will just remove the class. Beautiful. That's actually much easier. So what we will do in here, we will remove it. So we will say new post class list remove post template. So that's just to make sure that that new post is not marked as a template, so it actually shows on the page. So now we have it in here. We should be able to just append it. So we would say we would take our content post list. So const post list.
Thomas, why do you need to remove the post template? Is that because you display none on that, or
if we don't remove it, so our post template right now, the style of it is to display none. So
yes.
we will always want to have just one post template. So what we're doing in here is we're taking the template and we cloning it into a new post. So from the new, not from the template, but from the new post, we will want to remove that template class. Otherwise, it will be hidden, and we will have two templates on the page.
Right.
Yeah. So now we will get the list, and then in post list, we should be able to append child post element. So now what we're doing is we're getting the list and we are adding the just newly created post element. So hopefully we should be seeing something like 3 kittens on the page. See? Beautiful. So now we see 3 kittens on the page, and now we have the whole kind of fetching done. So all we need to do is just make sure that we have the correct data in there. So we need to replace the images with the correct images, and so on and so on. So let's just replace the images just so it's very obvious what we're doing. So we are passing our photo that we get from the API. We're passing it to our create post element. So we have all the information about photo in here. Let's log it out so we know what's in there. Yeah. So hopla. Right. And now we see that every photo will have some URLs. And there's full, raw, regular, small, and thumb. So I think the regular is probably gonna be some kind of reasonable size, so we don't download some crazy images. Let's have a look at it. Oh. Yeah, so that's pretty good size for what we need. So we will need to then take the URLs regular. So going back to our script, we know that the photo URLs regular is what we want to put in the image. The image is in the post __ image and image tag. So we should be able to do new post. So let's just do this, new post, and let's do const main image. Queries selector post image, and main in actually in here we can just select.
You don't need to put img. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. There is no point doing two different selectors because we're not going to be changing anything inside of this one. We will just touch this one. So yeah, you are correct. Image, and then you should just be able to do /c equals photo URLs regular. Let's see if this actually worked. Look at that. I'm really happy with that. Right, so so now we have images in there, and that was basically the main. So we have it now styled in a sense of, you know, it looks, well, close enough to Instagram that you can do in 2 hours anyway. And you have the images, so you are connected to third-party API that will give you random images, hopefully random. Let's refresh. Yep, random. Oh, this one looks upside down. Random images, and it will place them in there, right? So that's pretty good already. You are integrated basically. You don't need this console log anymore, and yeah, that's it. So please, we don't have that much time left, so ask me anything before if I touch something else, I feel like, you know, better to address questions now. So please do ask me something else. I mean, whatever you need. If you need something, just if you don't understand something. Yeah, so I just added a little bit of margin so they have some spacing between them. Let's have a look at the Instagram. Well, they have actually quite a lot of space in there. They have. Oh, I lost it.
There's one bit I didn't understand, but I guess it's not that important, and we can tackle it later. But what did you do with this Postman thing? I didn't quite get that.
So Postman is just it is just an application that you can use. You don't have to connect to APIs. So, you know, as you would normally do in your code, you do this fetch right in here. So obviously, to write this might be a bit. It is a bit time consuming, you know. So to test your API without actually having to write the code, there are a number of applications. One of them is called Postman, and you can literally just test your API in here. So everything that you can do in the code, you can put params to it, you can put body to it if you have post requests, you can put different headers and so on and so on and so on. And then you can send the requests and it will show you what would you get in the browser.
Okay.
So it's basically like a testing tool for you to connect to API. It is much easier and much faster to use this than actually trying to write it in your code and go into browser, refresh it, and see what else could be wrong and so on and so on. The one big advantage of this is it's called CORS. I don't know if you ever touched on that. CORS.
Yeah, that's the thing you have to install to. Yeah, I had to install CORS on my Brave browser, I think.
Yeah, well, you can't really install CORS, but basically very quickly what CORS is it's cross-origin requests, right? So what happens is you have a API, like in this case we have unsplash.com. That's our, or actually api.unsplash.com. That's the domain that this API is at. Now, you can make as many requests as you like to this API from api.unsplash.com, from the same domain, right? If you want to make a request from different domain, which in our case is my IP address, so it's different domain, then the server has to be set up for it. Otherwise, it's not going to let you to make the request. Okay, so if you have different API that is not as open as Unsplash, and you make requests to it from your local, it will give you back error, and it will say it will tell you cannot do a CORS request because you cannot go from one domain making requests to other domain. Now this you can read more about it if you would like. It's called CORS, right, like this. the main difference with, I mean, the one thing to know about CORS, it is only front end. Okay, so it's only if you're initiating the request from the client, from the browser basically, directly to the server. That's the only time when CORS comes into play. If you making API request between two servers, they don't care about CORS. You can make requests even if you cannot make it from your client, you can make it from the server, because servers don't have this CORS check. Now, what I'm getting to is Postman does not work as a front-end client. It works basically like a server. So if you cannot make requests from your client, you can still make requests from your Postman just to test the API at least. So sometimes what happens is you will be integrating with API and you will be getting CORS issues. You will contact the API creators and you will say, look, I want to connect, but I have API issues with CORS, and they will tell you, we will fix that. So wait, and you are basically stuck because you cannot integrate against it. But if you use something like Postman, at least you can still make requests to it and see what they return, and you can start coding an application before they finish it. So that's very useful. If there are CORS limitations, it's very useful to use Postman. But in general, I have, you can see I have lots of them in here, but usually when you work on a project, you would have your new collection. So you would have like a project collection, and the whole API would be documented in here, and you can basically just make a quick requests to them. So you wouldn't have to code it. You would just click button and it will show you what exactly data you would get back. It's a very useful tool basically, but it's just kind of nice to have. Right. And
thank you.
Any questions about the code? Because we are out of time, unfortunately. So we, just to kind of sum it up, before think about questions, and just to sum it up, we did the style as good as we could. I think it looks all right, and we integrated with the Unsplash. So we read their documentation and downloaded the images and did the authorization and stuff like that, and we created a simple function to actually paste those show them on the page. So you can now, I can just show you that it actually works. We can get 10 images. I can just change one number, and if I refresh, you will see that I have 10 images now on the page, and you can scroll through them like that, which is very nice. There's a lot to do in here still. Obviously, the images, you can see it on some better than on others. If you look at this, where was that here? Like, you can see how it's not in the right ratio, and that's what Ricardo was asking about. The sizing of the images is different. It's like new topic basically. We would have to get to it, but unfortunately we are out of time. But you can size the images with what is it called, transform, to make sure that they keep the ratio. But anyway, you will have to make some compromises. So either you're gonna have empty spaces around the image, or you're gonna make the image bigger. So you're gonna scale it so it actually fits within the frame, right? So you would basically superpose it to be bigger than the actual square, rectangle, and then you would just kind of like move it to the middle, I imagine, or top left, or whatever the project needs. So there are different ways. You could also use background image, right? So you could make this as a background image. It wouldn't have to be image. It could be just a div that you apply background image to it. There are different approaches to do the images, and I'm sure that we will touch on that later, or with Vassel or some or whatever. Right. Questions? Nothing? No? I will, in that case, do you want the code? Do you want me to share the code with you?
I already copied pasted it from the...
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, I can try to. I will talk to Vassal and he will set up some repo or something, and I can push whatever we did today. Maybe it will be useful to you. So I can do that, and we can send you a link. Other than that, thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, just ping me.
Cool. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks. Bye.
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 Thank you very much. See you. Bye bye.